All right, guys, Bradley Hallman here. Welcome back to the channel. Really appreciate you guys being here, man. I have got an awesome video for you guys here today. If you're interested in the CoAngler series, which is one of my best things I got going on YouTube here to make you guys better from fishing at the back of the boat, dude, I have brought in one of my very good friends, one of the best CoAnglers of all time, Bryan, who is now an Elite Series angler, just won his very first blue trophy in his rookie season, his very first tournament that he ever fished his entire life on the Elite Series. He won. This dude's been kicking butt out of the back of the boat for a long, long time. His travel partner that he traveled with for many years on the FLW Tour was none other than Bryan Thrift. Guys, y'all don't want to miss the tips and techniques that he's got that's got him to where he is today. He's extremely successful in the back 180. That's what this whole video is about, how to make you guys better at catching fish out of the back of the boat. And even you boaters can learn a whole lot from what Bryan Thrift's got to say. Bryan Thrift, Bryan. I hope I didn't start this video that way. Bryan. He is kind of Bryan Thrift's little twin somehow. Anyway, guys, if you hadn't been here before, don't forget, bump that like, hit that subscribe. But if you have been here, dude, I'm watching you. Hit that freaking subscribe button. All right, let's get to new. Did you hear that?
I heard it.
That means we're live. All right, we got Bryan, and Bryan and I've been trying to do this for a while, and he and I both with our schedules, we've been talking about it for months. It's like the classic, and we haven't done this for my CoAngler series, and you've been a guy that I've really wanted on here for quite some time because you're like one of the greatest CoAnglers of all time, dude. You realize that, right?
I mean, people say a lot of things, but you know,
well,
I get up every morning, I put my pants on the same way everybody else does. So
I'm sitting
whatever's happens.
I'm looking at your results, and FLW, you had 44 top tens and 4 career wins with $400,000 next to your name. And I think that most of that is probably from the back of the boat. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, at least 3/4 probably. I know I won a BFL regional and done really well in All-American from the front of the boat. And, you know, some coasters did well in some Toyota series events. So, I mean, I made a fair amount of money with FLW in the front of the boat, but I would say at least probably 200 or 250 of that was from the back of the boat.
Well, for all the guys that don't know you, kind of give a background of how you got started fishing, how you kind of got into the really high level tournament fishing, and then all the way up to where I kind of met you, where you're traveling full time as a CoAngler on the FLW Tour with Bryan Thrift.
Yeah, so man, like I grew up, lived on Lake Wiley. We lived on the lake, and me and my brothers, we just love to fish. We fish, we go out in the woods, hunting, and just we were always outdoors. And when we were fishing, we didn't care what we fished. Like my brothers, they were really into like catfish and crappie fishing, and you know I was as well. Well, when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, it was a little bit later than that, probably 7 or 8. There was a tackle store opened up about a mile up the street from the house. And back in those days, things wasn't nearly as crazy. You could let your 8-year-old kid walk a mile up the road and not worry about something happening to him. So I walked up there all the time. They had a little grill there. So we, you know, in the summer, parents are at work, me and my brothers are at home, and we walk up there and get lunch or whatever. We just hang out at the store. And I don't remember what grade, but I was in elementary school. We had a new family move to my church, and my preacher knew that I liked to fish. So he introduced me to this new family. Curtis, the husband was Curtis Hildebrand. And, you know, he liked to fish. So we went fishing and hit it off. We started fishing all the time. Well, he just so happened to bass fish. So hanging out at the tackle store before that had already kind of turned my gears towards bass fishing. But then going all the time bass fishing with him, you know, I guess kind of set the stone a little more. Fast forward a little bit. Um, I didn't have the money to fish all these tournaments, or I didn't have a boat. Like we had the first boat I ever had. The jet ski lifts that you pull your jet ski on, you just drive it up onto, and it's not a lift, or a mechanical lift. You just drive it up on top of it.
Yeah.
So there was a big flood one spring, or I don't know. I want to say it was in the spring, and there's a lot of debris floating around. Well, one of those jet ski lifts happened to float up on the bank at our house. Well, nobody ever come to claim it. So I had that jet ski lift that floated and a 2x4 for a paddle. That was the first boat I ever had. But yeah, man, it just kind of went from there when I was 16. So in FLW, you had to be 16 to fish, their events. There was a BFL at Lake Norman, like 4 or 5 days after my 16th birthday. So I fished it as a co-angler. I think I finished 20th or 21st, I believe. I got $161, son. I thought I done won the class. And that was the first tournament of the year. So after that, I was like, hey, I need to fish the rest of the season. And I think I missed one other event because I was paying all my entry fees, and I make $50 a week at work after school. So I didn't really have a whole lot of money. So I think I had to miss one, and then, I wound up fishing the rest of them, and did that for a few years. Met some good guys, met Matt Airy, started fishing with him, met Bryan Thrift, and just built a lot of great relationships. And then fast forward a little bit to maybe 2011. Yeah, it had to be 2011. I won the CoAngler of the year in the BFLs. And at that time, a family friend had told me that, he would pay my entry fees to fish the FLW tour as a co-angler. So he did. And 2012, there was, my first year. I did all right. I didn't do great. I made the cup, and let's see. The guy I was traveling with that year didn't make the cup. And so that's whenever me and Bryan Thrift started fishing together. We had been friends for a while, but that's when we started fishing together. The first day of practice of the Farcewood Cup in 2012 at Lake Lanier was the first day we ever fished together, and been fishing together ever since. Right. Yeah, so did that a few years. I won a FLW tournament at Eufaula as a co-angler. Then I won a BFL as a co-angler the next week, I believe, on my home lake, Wiley. Let's see. I think it was a year or so. 2014, I won the cup on Lake Murray, where I live now. And then 2 years later, maybe, I won the co-angler of the year.
Wow.
Something like that. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember.
You won co-angler of the year of the FLW tour that year. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I want to say that was 16 because I believe 17 was the last year I fished, and I missed an event to fish the Race Scott Championship. And I'm glad I did, because I finished third in that and made $10,000.
Well, that brings up a real interesting subject, because one of the biggest things that I get questions about, right, especially with this sport, and you're a guy that I know has worked your tail off at every little side gig, hustle, to make money on the side job, and then really been picky about where you invest your money as far as tournaments, right? Like, you look at it like a casino, and which casino's giving you the best odds. Talk a little bit about how financially, for these guys that are like, man, because we both know, right, these new boats and all this stuff's so expensive, right? And it is an uphill battle for someone of any age, really, that's never been heavily involved in the sport. Talk about how you were able to afford it, some of the things that you went through, sacrifices that you made to be able to afford to put yourself in the position where you are now, all the way at the, as at the top level as a Bassmaster Elite Series angler.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of back up, like I sort of, talked about it before, but like growing up, we didn't have a whole lot. I'm not going to say we were dirt poor because like we didn't go hungry, but we didn't have a lot of stuff. My mom, she was a single mom. She worked 2 jobs, she worked her tail off to give us what we had. And, we were okay, but we didn't have a lot.
Right.
And, I seen that growing up. I understood how hard it was to make money and how easy it is for it to go. I was funding my own way to fish the BFLs as a co-angler, and we're talking only $100 entry fee. And I mean, $100 is a lot of money. I mean, but when you're talking tournament entry fees, it's really not. So I would make enough on this level to fund the next level. Starting BFLs as a co-angler, going to the FLW Tour as a co-angler. Now, yes, I had my entry fees paid for that first year or two on the FLW Tour as a co-angler, but you still got all your expenses. You got, a week of lodging, you got gas, you got food. And yes, I mean, whether you're at a tournament or you're at home, you're going to have to pay for food, but typically, it costs a little bit more to eat when you're away from home because, you've got so much going on. You have to eat fast food or you have to eat at a restaurant a lot more than you do when you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, here's something that a lot of people don't even think about is you're missing a week of work. So whatever you got to, unless you have vacation time, that's money that you're losing. I mean, if you make $500 a week at work and you're not there, that's $500 more it costs you to go to that tournament. And in the reality, it's so hard to make money fishing. It costs so much to do it. That being said, you can make it. It's just so hard. And you have to be super, super careful with your money. You got to be super careful with all your expenses. And just don't get too deep. I mean, don't invest more than you can lose. You can, if it's going to cost you $10,000 to fish this trail this year, if you can't afford to lose $10,000, you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Now, I was single for several years, so I didn't have a whole lot of worry. Like if I lost everything I had, I would have been all right, but I still didn't take that risk. Now, I have a family and a daughter. I definitely can't take that risk now. But yeah, so I took those, I made enough money here to get to here, made enough money here to get to here. And along the way, you're learning, I learned all the time.
I know that, at the level of success that you were achieving on a tournament by tournament basis, towards the end when you were fishing CoAngler on the FLW tour, there was a lot of people going, "Hey, why don't you fish as a pro? Why don't you fish as a pro?" And you had that for multiple years, people asking you that question.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that financially was part of it. I know you crawled in the boat with a lot of pros that you knew dadgum good and well at the end of the day that you were better fishermen than they were. I'm sure that happened quite a bit. But you still stayed the course, stayed steady, like what you're talking about. You waited until your time was right financially, and you also kept improving on how, the quality of angler that you were. When is the right time? I mean, that's a question too, right? When is the right time for a guy to move? Even if he's just doesn't have any aspirations to ever be a pro bass fisherman. He fishes the local South Carolina BFL division. And he's fished as a co-angler the last 2 or 3 years. When's the right time? What do you tell guys? When's the right time for them to move to the boater side?
Well, and see, here's where I think it gets a little tricky, because we fish tournaments because we love fishing tournaments. But fortunately, I've been able to make a living doing it for several years, and now it sounds crazy, but I was super fortunate that it happened. But I made a living fishing as a co-angler for several years. And I think you look at it like a business. you start your business and you make a living. You're making a little bit. And you finally get to a point where you're saying, all right, let's go to the next level. Let's and now this is not the only answer that I have to your question, but so you get to that point to where you're saying, I think I can go to this next level and be all right. To me, that was one thing of it, because I don't recommend anybody fishing as a co-angler to try to make a living. Honestly, I don't recommend fishing to anybody to try to make a living, because it's super risky. Yes, it can be done, but it's super risky. But to back up more to the fishing side of it, every day that you go fishing, whether it's just for fun, whether it's, practice for a tournament, whatever it may be, you're constantly learning. And I learned so much fishing as a co-angler. I learned from a lot of the guys I fished with. I learned, what to do and what not to do, fishing from guys. And this is truly the biggest thing that I learned from fishing as a co-angler. I mean, so number one, when you're a co-angler, and when I was a co-angler, I felt this way as well. So I feel like, and I did it long enough, I feel like it's okay for me to say it. A lot of guys may not see it, but when you're a co-angler, you're really there to make sure the guy in the front of the boat doesn't cheat or break any rules or whatever it may be. And hope to do well in the meantime and make a little money, have a little fun, win a tournament. So, and I looked at that the same way. I couldn't afford to fish as a boater, so I fished as a co-angler. That's the opportunity I had. I took it, but I knew that the guy in the front of the boat had like 50 times more invested than me. I mean, he's got a boat, he's got boat insurance, he's got a truck that he has to pull that boat with, he's got, the fuel expense, everything, plus a way bigger entry fee. That being said, I'm not going to do something that's going to potentially interfere with the outcome of his day. So that being said, I started fishing unorthodox stuff. Like if he's burning down the bank, instead of throwing at the bank right behind him, where if there was a fish there, he's either caught, not going to bite, or he's just not there. And instead of throwing across the pocket where I know this guy's fixing to go and getting ahead of him and screwing him, I mean, because that's what you're doing if you do that. I wouldn't do that. So I'd just throw in the middle of the pocket. And you don't think of fish being out there that much, catchable fish especially. But I started putting that together and I started catching more and more fish doing that. And I put all of this stuff together, and I would have never probably learned that. I definitely wouldn't have learned it as quick as I did. And not only that, when you're a co-angler, you have zero say so where you go. You get put in this position. Here we are. Figure out how to catch fish right now. And either you do or you don't. Well, now it's time to make a move. I don't know where we're going. You pull up. Now it's all over again. I mean, it's constantly all over again. And, now I don't, if I'm going down a bank and everything's going wrong, I don't get super dialed into exactly what was happening yesterday or exactly what was happening an hour ago. I go back to, I shouldn't say I go back because it's just natural to me because I did it for so long. I kind of feel like I'm still in that same position. All right, this is what's in front of me. What do I do?
Right. It takes me to, you beat me to one of my questions, which was, of all the guys that fished on the FLW tour for so long, a lot of the co-anglers that did it for a long time, some of them ended up with bad reputations. And especially some of the ones that were pretty successful on a daily basis. You, on the other hand, were in a small handful group of guys that always had a great reputation, always. And you and I had talked about that once at Table Rock, and you were talking about how you really focused about some of the things that you just talked about, how you, it's really kind of what started my series, to be honest with you, a year or so ago when I started this CoAngler series to help CoAnglers, was to empower them in the aspect of it doesn't have to do with the draw. You know, it doesn't have to do with who you draw out with, how much they're on fish. It's really about your ability to read water and knowledge of bass fishing that allows you to catch fish in the back of the boat. And you are fishing used water, and there is a correct way to do it, and there's an incorrect way to do it. And the way that you've always done it in the past was the correct way. Plus, you were extremely, extremely successful at it. And I know you told a story one day about how you never quit. You know, you told me this. You told me, this is what you told me one day. You said, dude, I'll promise you one thing. If I'm in the boat with you on tournament day, when your boat comes off pad, I will make a cast before you make a cast. You said, but it'll be in the back 180.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not going to interfere. It's not going to interfere. But yeah,
and then you also said, when you're pulling that trolling motor up, I'm still going to be fishing my lure. You said, I may be fishing my lure when you start your motor, but you won't be waiting on me to go, because I'll be sitting in that seat and my life jacket will be on. Like, you're not waiting on me to start your motor. So you'll never wait on me, and I'll be back there. He said, now I may be reeling my stuff in as you're getting on pad, but like, I take advantage of every second of the day, which leads me to this story you told me. And I want you to tell it because it's a great story, because it's a sight fishing deal. And sight fishing in the back of the boat can sometimes be, when there's not a lot of fish around.
Yeah.
It can be like the longest day in the world in the back of the boat, right? Especially when you're especially when you're playing the back 180. And let's say it's April and the guy decides to slip in someplace, put you in a little bind where he's not intentionally trying to do it. It's just where the fish that he's wanting to visually catch is between two places that you can't throw past. And so you're just looking at the same thing, and he may sit on that fish for, depending on what big it is and how hard it is to catch, he may sit there for hours, which is what happened to you. Tell that story.
Yeah. So we were at Beaver Lake.
This was also the part where you telling me that you never quit. You said, I've never quit. I've never not made a cast, no matter what I was looking at. And you said, on this day, I almost quit.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, come close. But so it's Beaver Lake. I think it was the first year that the Johnston brothers fished the FLW tour. And so I draw out with Chris, and, you know, Beaver Lake, if you know, somebody watching that is not familiar with it, the lower end is super crystal clear. You can see the bottom 10, 11 foot of water. And it's April-ish, the fish are spawning. He pulls in this pocket, and the only way that he could get to this fish was he had to go through the timber, come back around. So let's see. One, we're in the middle of a bunch of timber, so it's not like you can just throw wherever. The boat's right against the bank. The back of the boat is towards the back of the pocket, which is maybe 60 feet from me, probably more like 40 feet from me. And it's roughly 8 foot deep, maybe in the dead middle. I could see the bottom everywhere around me. I mean, I could literally see everything. And there was about 3 casts that I could make, period, without throwing over his line or doing something crazy like that. And like, that's just not even a thought, you know. That's not even going to cross my mind. So we're sitting here. It's like a 4.5 pounder that he's fishing for, like great big one at Beaver, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's been so long ago, I'm not going to be exact here, but I know we were there well over an hour, probably an hour and a half or so. And I flipped these 3 trees with a shaky head and a wacky worm 942 times each in this hour and a half. I haven't seen a fish move. I haven't seen a fish swim in. And I'm just sitting there against the butt seat. I'm still fishing, but am I really fishing? You know, my bait is still in the water, and I'm just like, God, come on, man. I'm hungry. I ain't catching no fish. There ain't no fish around. I'm not going to catch one. And I picked up a wacky worm. I mean, I think I was alternating back and forth to a shaky head and a wacky worm, something like that. And I slid my wacky worm over there and I let it sink to the bottom. And I'm soaking. Why not? And dang if that thing don't start swimming off. And I jerked and I caught, I don't remember how big it was, but I caught a keeper. I caught 5 keeper fish that day. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I caught 6 keeper fish that day.
Wow.
And that was one of them. And I mean, 99.9% of the guys would have not caught that fish. Not because I was better than them, but because I was fishing.
Yeah.
And fast forward.
How many casts you think you'd made to that stunt, that one stick sticking there?
A bunch.
You thrown that at 40 or 50 times?
At least. And but fast forward, we were in Prairie Creek. At the very end of the day, just pulled up on a bluff. Everybody, always did there. I had just a couple minutes to go. I threw a jerk bait out there, and as Chris is pulling the trolling motor up to go, I hook a fish, and I'm fighting it in, and he's like literally cranking the motor up, like we've got to go. It's like that close, we've got to go, and nothing gets him, but like he was starting to get on plane as I'm fixing to put this fish in the boat. He wasn't going to risk being late because I was fighting fish, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't have either. But I get the fish in, rules say you have to coal immediately. Well, like we're on plane. I mean, we're a half a mile or less from check-in. So it's not like we were going really fast. So I've got this fish I just caught, and I'm back here looking in the live well, trying to find my smallest one so I can coal. I mean, so it did. It gave me a quarter pound. I mean, it definitely gave me, 4 or 5 ounces at least,
right,
I think.
Right.
And
so you're calling as you go by the check-in boat when you turn in the fob?
And that's the last cast of the day. So that there's 2 situations in that one day right there that you just push and push and push and push. I mean, you don't see a successful any kind of football player. You don't see them go out there on the field and just dick around. They're getting after it. Their sport, their game's only a few hours. Ours is 8, 9, 10 hours, but you still push as hard as you can.
And you carry that with you today. You still push just as hard when you're in front of the boat.
Yeah. I obviously it's not. I mean, I'm older. I'm not old, but I am older, and I got a lot more on my plate now. So, I don't push as hard as I did then, just because I physically can't. But I'm still pushing hard. I mean, really hard. But I was pushing stupid hard then.
I understand. I get it. You talked about traveling with Thrift, and I know one thing that you did with him was you practiced. You would go the whole week, and you practiced with Thrift every single event, all 3 days of practice. You guys would get up together, pack your sandwiches. I know some of the tournaments, even I remember talking to you at Kentucky Lake, where Thrift was spending a lot of time idling, and you literally just curled up in the bottom of the boat and would sleep during the day.
Yes.
While he was graphing. For co-anglers that are out there, one of the guys that I just had on before he was the opposite. He would fly into events on the FLW tour, and he would show up at the meeting and draw out with the guys, and it helped him keep an open mind, right? Because he didn't practice for 3 days with a guy flipping and then go draw the guy that's throwing the Carolina rig out on the sand points and be like, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Oh my God, there's nothing out there now. I'm staying in a house with 5 guys and they're all on the bank and they know what's going on. How did I draw the only guy that doesn't know what's going on? And then you go out there and find out he does know what's going on. And anyway, talk about the advantages of practicing as a co-angler and the advantages of not practicing as a co-angler, and when you can kind of draw that line.
So to me, I think the two the two biggest things are seeing watercolor difference on different areas of the lake. That's, to me, is one of the biggest things. You know, whatever time of the year it is in the lake you're at, and the weather, you before you even get there, you got an idea what's going on. I mean, we always do everywhere we go, but in reality, like sometimes you could be, you know, a few weeks ahead, a few weeks early, or something crazy. Say it's a flood or something, or a super big drawdown, or whatever it may be. So, but to me, the biggest thing was seeing the different color watercolors and knowing, like, if it's dirty everywhere, you know, you're going to be on the bank. You know, if this one river's dirty and that one's clear, and your guy, and I asked basically two questions. I said, are we going to fish in deep or shallow? And that's, you know, about it. Well, I said I asked two questions. I think that's actually probably about it. And the other one was, if it was shallow, I'd just like clean or dirty water, and that was it. I left it at that. I didn't say, hey, you know, are we going to, you know, this creek or that creek? What, you know, I left it at that. But that being said, a lot of times say, oh yeah, we're going to go up the Big Saluda River. And well, I was out there. I know that the Big Saluda is clear, but the Little Saluda is dirty. So I know how to, you know, what baits that I need, what color, you know.
Because you've been there practicing is what you're saying.
Right. And it's more the watercolor, knowing what baits that work in that watercolor versus, they're on this kind of rock or that kind of rock. And I would obviously absolutely get dialed in on stuff like that. I tell you a good example. The first thing that comes to mind is the Forestwood Cup 2013 Red River. And this is funny. You'll get a kick out of this. So, I mean, it's the Red River in August. I mean, tough, you know, definitely tough.
Oh yeah.
And oh my gosh, Brian Schmidt's calling me.
Hang up on
call him back. Are you back? So we have me and Thrift, we have a pretty tough practice, and we get on a little deal. I actually figured it out. I'm taking credit for this one. And it was like, dude, this is the deal. I mean, it went from like barely catching a couple fish a day to you go do this for an hour and you're probably going to have a pretty good bag.
Wow.
And I draw out with, guess who? James M.F. Watson. Worldwide. And man, I smoked him that day. And he was, he's fishing the bank, paralleling the bank, and I'm paralleling, throwing back behind the boat, catching them, and he's not catching crap. Man, he had a fit. He threw his rod up in the reeds. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then about 5 minutes later, he said, well, I guess I should go get my rod now. It was funny, but no, that was the situation that getting dialed into one little thing in practice, I was able to carry it over.
Right. So if you'd just flown in, you wouldn't have known anything about it.
Right. And, that was more of one detail, like look for this or look for that instead of, okay, fish whatever's in front of you. I know the watercolor is going to be like this. But then you go to, like, say, a TVA lake and or a herring lake. I've been in situations, I mean, we all have, like, situations like that. A lot of times it can be a bait thing. Everybody's got a school of fish that they're on, but, they're wanting this one particular bait over that one. And most of the schools on the lake are that way.
I definitely agree with that on herring fish. There is usually a cricket that is better than what everybody else is throwing. And there's usually multiple guys that have all found the same groups of fish.
Yes.
Herring lakes are notorious for that. Advice you would give other co-anglers, and like I say, they could be BFLs, they could be Bassmaster Opens, Toyota guys. What's the biggest piece of advice you could give someone who is a co-angler, been doing it a long time, or just starting? What's the one thing that you think could help them do better in tournaments?
I mean, I'm gonna go with two because one's pretty simple. One is always keep an open mind. Always keep open mind. Two, to me, this is the biggest, most important thing for so many different reasons. Knowing your place. I mean, that sounds harsh, that sounds disrespectful, but it's not. I mean, it's just not. You don't. I can't think of a way to describe it in a fancy way, like I was going for. But if you know your place and you work your ass off, you can still do that and not hinder the guy in the front of the boat.
Absolutely.
One, if he gets the chance to give you a more high potential opportunity, he's going to. Two, you're going to get a reputation, whether it's a good one or it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Fishing's just like anything else in life. You know, you run a business, whatever you do it the right way and get a good reputation and succeed, or you do it the wrong way, get a bad reputation, succeed for a little bit, and then you start losing your customers. Or relate it to fishing, then you start losing your opportunities because guys already know, hey, I drew this guy, two of my buddies drew him, and they, he just was all down their neck all day long. So I've really got to be on my toes and keep everything guarded.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm not going to do anything to help him.
Yeah. I think both those are great.
Fishing, yeah, I mean, fishing is just like anything else in life that you're doing. It's just fishing instead of building a house or cutting grass or, whatever your job may be. It's the same way. You have to think about it the same way and, work your ass off, respect people, do people right. And if it will happen. It will happen. It may not happen as often or as quick as you want it to, but it will happen. And another thing, I tell you what, kind of going back to, oh man, I got a bad draw. This guy never catches them, or, this guy's out in 100 foot of water. I'm not going to catch nothing. And I've zeroed some tournaments as a co-angler, but just a few. Actually, I fished the Toyota series at Lake Norman last year as a co-angler.
Wow.
And honestly, the only reason was the way, what was it? Oh, okay. So they were getting so few boats, the payout was garbage. Well, it was guaranteed a boat for a co-angler if you win. So I could not practice. Now, this was probably the only co-angler event that I never practiced for, but it was on Lake Norman. I mean, it was in the fall. I knew what was going to be going on. It's in, 30 minutes from my house. So I didn't take off work. I worked all week. I slept in my own bed. And the first day I didn't do very good. The second day I zeroed. So that I guess that's going to kind of go against what I'm going to say. But if you push and let's get it. I don't care who you're with, what you're around, you're going to have a few opportunities in a day. It may not be 5, it may only be 1, but you're going to have a few opportunities. If you analyze everything that's in front of you and you push, and plus you add the respect in, which is going to, not only is it the right thing to do, but it's going to probably give you a few more opportunities. I'm not going to say you're not going to zero, but you're going to have some opportunities. You just have to capitalize on them when you get them.
Yeah. 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 Well, you got some checks behind you. You said this is your new tackle room.
It is. It's not really complete. We've only been here like 2 months, and
can you give us a tour?
Yeah.
Let's see that place.
it's a little messy for me, but so I got a couple rods, a few Fitzgerald rods here, a few more. I got
You
a light
rods.
so you can see me.
I've got to
Here,
call Falcon. I haven't got that many rods from Falcon in 5 years. My God.
I've got a few boxes of baits. Um, and this is what's funny. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all chatterbaits.
Wow.
5 of these boxes, and they're full too.
So what's the difference in 5 boxes of chatterbait? So do you have like one box that's all quarter ounce? Oh, those are the Oklahoma specials there. Don't be showing those off.
Uh, ooh,
The red
this is
blades.
all big blade chatterbaits, which just come out. All right, this is going to be all small blades. It's got stealth blades, and then it'll have the new mini max thing they're calling. And I'm not sponsored by chatterbait. It's just I like a chatterbait. And then this is all halves, all 3/8, and then all 3/4 an ounce and a quarter.
Wow.
But made a lot of money on a chatterbait. I like a chatterbait, so I've got a bunch of them.
Apparently so.
But yeah, I've got all of these, all deep crankbaits, all jerk baits, grass, square bills, all traps, frogs, top waters, swim baits like triple trouts, glide baits. All of this is these are all square bills, and all of these are cold water crankbaits. Hooks, treble hooks, spoons, flutter spoons, grass jigs. I got a box of pulse jigs here, and then weight box, small swim bait box, swim bait head box, and then these two are finesse boxes. Yeah, and here we go. So this is all finesse swim baits. These are all plastics, and these are not really small boxes. They're pretty big boxes.
Yeah.
I know these down here are like stupid heavy.
God.
I mean, they've got to be over 100 pounds each. And then we got some different stuff, reels. And I bought me an Aquaview this year. I don't know if you can even see it, but that's an Aquaview. Ooh, check this little dude out. This is the new Spro Flapping Frog. That's a sweet dude. I think it's called a Flapping Frog.
You like that bait?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
It's got some really funky feeling plastic to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like a mix between
stretchy,
like an Elastec and like a gummy worm.
Yep. Do you just reel it, or do you work it like a frog?
No, yeah, I like it both ways. I reel it. You can twitch it, and it's kind of like say a prop bait. I mean, obviously it's not a prop bait, but it kind of has that sound.
Yep.
But yeah, I like that deal. Got some more boxes of Sunline that I carry with me. Yeah, these are all hard baits that are still in the pack. Like, I kind of all of those are Mega Bass jerk baits. So kind of got a few of them. They're actually custom colors too. There was only 500 of them ever made, and I think I bought 80 of them.
Jeez.
Same thing here. Some more in the box baits. Yeah. Oh, I got this bag here. It's got my AFCO gear in it. I got a washer and dryer. They don't match, but they work. And
now, is that just the whole house laundry, or is that just your fishing room laundry?
No, it's the whole house.
Oh, okay.
My wife decided she wanted to make my fishing room the laundry room, so I was like, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but I got a lot of stuff. I like fishing, man. That's the I'm trying to turn this thing around. That's the cool thing about like most people, their hobby is a hobby. Well, I'm fortunate enough that my hobby is actually I can make a living doing it. And yeah, I can justify buying stuff for my hobby more. So yeah, but oh yeah, and then there's yeah, you were wanting to see those little checks.
Oh yeah.
That was back in the good old days.
Yeah, and you just won you another 100,000 this year. What Bassmaster Elite Series? Where's that trophy?
Oh, it's got a special place. It's in here in the living room.
I want to see
We're
it.
not really, like I said, we just kind of got in here. So these,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I've got a lot more stuff than this, but these are the special ones to me. I mean, there's the Bassmaster Open that I won, the first Open I ever fished to
On
help me
Toho.
qualify for the elites, qualify for the classic
Yep.
for my first elite. Bassmaster Angler of the Year, or the Open Angler of the Year. But then this here, that's BFL Regional. That was a pretty special tournament to me. It was at Seminole, one of my favorite places, and then the Ray Scott Championship that same year, 2019, that I won the regional. And you know, don't really, I haven't even brought my CoAngler trophies from my old house yet. So but those are the most special ones to me. So
That's a nice stack, son. It's a nice stack.
I hope to add a few, maybe a gold one. Maybe
Hey,
I'd like a gold one next year, but I'll take blue, gold, either one.
that's what I want. That's my whole drive in life. So, like, I just did a video. The last video I dropped was about my fire and how can I make it burn hotter. And some of the guys, the comments that I've got, I think they honestly thought that maybe I don't like fishing anymore, and it's not that. It's to burn hot like yours burns, right? And
Yeah,
they don't realize. People don't realize in a 24-hour day. And I've hung out with you and Schmidt and Thrifty and Christy and best fishermen in the world. It's easier for you guys to count the time of day that you don't think about fishing, right? There's less hours in a day that you're not thinking about fishing than you are.
yeah.
How many hours a day do you think you spend on an average week that you're home and on a tournament? How many hours a week do you think you spend in that room right there?
A lot. I mean, when I'm not at work, and not, pick my daughter up from school, doing something with her, doing something with the family. If we're at home and we're not doing paperwork or eating or doing something as a family, I'm in this room. I may just be sitting in the floor, just hanging out.
Yeah.
But like, I'm in this room and I'm tinkering with tackle, looking online at trying to find new tackle, trying to find stuff that's hard to find, trying to find stuff that's been out of stock.
Are you a big eBay guy?
Yeah. I actually placed a big order on eBay this week.
Really?
I did.
Secret baits?
Not really. I got some actually, this box right here is just the XR 100s, I think they used to make that they don't make anymore.
Yeah.
So I bought all of those, every one of those.
You just want a different sound when you go to Florida, don't you?
Well, I mean, like, to me, this is, it's the 1 ounce bait, but it fishes more like a half ounce bait,
right?
Because it's a bigger bait. And I didn't really buy them from Florida. I kind of bought them because I didn't have but a couple of them. It's like, I could see using those maybe at I forgot where I was thinking I might use them next year. Oh, maybe Chickamauga.
So
yeah.
Back to the CoAngler deal with your little crickets, and that's what I like to call them, right? The little secret crickets. That's a good way to learn crickets, right? I mean, did you pick up a lot of the little special crickets that you got through the years from fishing with guys, or did you really honestly just kind of find them on your own the way you and Thrift kind of really spend your off season?
Yeah, I'm sure I definitely did both ways. I mean, most of it was, from doing the research I do and the tinkering that I do. But yeah, I can't pinpoint one right off the top of my head, just because, I mean, just when I figured something out. I don't remember exactly why I figured it out. I just remember that it works.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But that being said, yeah, I'm sure. I'm trying to think of one. I tell you what, at Beaver Lake with David Dudley, he was throwing, a bait like a pulse jig on a bridge piling, and I was throwing a single Kitech at the same bridge piling after he got done. Or no, let me back up. It was actually before he fished it, because he pulled in at the bridge and turned and fished this piling and said he wasn't going to fish the middle piling. Well, I throw at that middle piling with a single Kitech,
right,
and never had a bite. Well, I don't remember exactly why, but whatever. He turns and he actually does fish the middle piling, and or maybe he just said, "Yeah, I don't care. You go ahead and fish it." It's been so long I don't remember exactly, and he was throwing a bait like the pulse jig, and he caught like 3 or 4 in a row, and I threw a bait super similar to it right there and never had a bite. So that's something, that kind of where I started throwing that, scrounger pulse jig style bait. I'm sure there's more, but that's all I can come up with right now. I know that I taught some people some little crickets.
I'm sure you
I'm not
have.
going to say any names or anything, but so the buzz toad, everybody, it's no secret anymore.
Right.
Todd Alton, it lives, right down the street from where I'm from, Lake Wiley. Todd Alton is the original buzz toader. He is the first one that ever done it.
Really?
So yes,
I never knew that.
Yep, he's the godfather of the buzz toad. Well, obviously, all us Carolina boys, we didn't know it as soon as Todd did, but we were the next ones to know. So at the Farcewood Cup at Washita, it was the very last Farcewood Cup as CoAngler. So it's 2015. I won in 14 at Murray. I finished second in 15 at Washita. I think it was, it was definitely Washita. Ain't that Hot Springs?
Yes, Washita's Hot Springs.
So the guy I was fishing with, he was fishing shallow, and like he caught some fish. He had a decent bag. I was throwing a buzz toad, and it was like every piece of cover that would come to, he'd fish it, like flipping it, or I don't really remember what he was doing. And then I'd throw my buzz toad over there and catch one. And I had a good little bag, and I've got a lot of respect for the guy. Can't believe he even went about it like this way. And if I would have answered differently, I don't know that he would have done differently. But he said, "Man, I've never seen that. You just sliding that horny toad on your buzz baits?" Yeah, I said, "I've never seen that." He said, "Do you care if I rig one up?" I said, "Dude, you got way more on the line than I do." I said, "Yeah, you don't need to ask me." I said, "You're not going to bother me." Now, in reality, I would have loved to tell him, "No, I don't want you to do it," but was it going to matter? And it didn't matter if it did matter. He had way more on the line than me,
Right.
But for him to ask his co-angler that, I don't want to say means nothing, but that is his co-angler that's fishing for 1/10 of what he's fishing for.
Yeah.
I got a lot of respect for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a cool story.
And I can't, I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't ask him. I would have done it. I mean, call me wrong, but I would have just done it.
I might have asked, but if you'd have told me no, I'm probably still going to be doing it.
Yes, and that's why I wasn't going to ask, because I'm going to do it either way.
Oh, that's a great story. Well, dude, I appreciate your time, man, and the help. I get a good response out of this CoAngler series. I mean, you're one of the best that's ever done it out of the back of the boat. You've got tons of great information in this video. You help a lot of people out. Dude, thank you so much for coming on here. Wish you all the best of luck in the Elite Series next year. You seem to have won a trophy every single year since like counting way back. So next year, go win 2 of them.
I'm going to win as many as I can. As we all want to we all want to win every tournament.
Oh yeah.
But in reality, like, yeah, I still want to win every tournament, but I just want to feed my family. I just want to make a living fishing, doing what I love. That being said, if I'm just making a living, I'm not going to just sit back and say, oh, this is good enough. I'm still going to keep fighting, but I'm going to take whatever good Lord gives me. I'm going to work my butt off and try to get more trophies. But I want to feed my family doing what I love to do, and it's just a blessing to do that. But if you don't take anything away from this video, fishing is just like everything else in life. If you bust your ass and you analyze everything, the investment, and be smart about the investment. And if you want to be an Elite Series pro, I don't care where you are, what you've done, you can do it. You just got to dedicate. Like, I've literally dedicated my life. Everything I've done in my life since I was 7 or 8 years old was to try to make it here. And yeah, I mean, it was the goal. I said I was going to do it when I was a kid, but in reality, I knew what are the chances of that. I'm not super old, but I'm 31. So how many years is that I've dedicated my life to? I've purposely, not got married and not had a family until here, a few years ago, because that's crazy big sacrifices. But if that's what you want to do, you can make it happen. And it's not just fishing. I'm not talking just fishing. I'm talking life.
Yeah.
I think all of us in fishing just talk about fishing because that's, the people that are watching, that's kind of what they want to hear, but that's life. It's just like everything else.
Dude, you couldn't have said it better.
You do right, you do right, you treat people right, you live right, and work your tail off, dedicate yourself to it. It's going to happen sometime. And also on top of that, don't force things. Let things happen. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is kind of going back to all them years, all them steps as a co-angler, and then started fishing BFLs as a boater, and then coasters as a boater, opens, now the Elite Series, all those steps. I wasn't forcing things. If I would have forced it the first year I qualified for the FLW Tour, I'd probably be bankrupt. I didn't force it. I let it happen, and I've been super successful. I'm very fortunate and blessed for that.
Well, dude, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. Boys watching, in case y'all ain't noticed, you ain't going to see this anywhere else. I got some stuff out here that's different than all the other channels. Don't forget, bump that like, hit that subscribe. Until next time, myself, we're out of here. See you guys.
It's been fun. See you.
See you, Bubba.